Welcome to this guided visualization and practice. Just go ahead and take a moment before we dive in to find a place that feels really comfortable for your body. It can be sitting in a chair or on the bed. It can be lying down. Just make yourself comfortable and see if you can find a place where your spine is completely straight. We want to aim for comfort, but also a feeling of empowerment in your posture. And once you've found that spot, go ahead and just let your eyes come to a gentle closed position. Letting the rest of the world begin to drop away. And as you shift your awareness from the noise of the external world into the quiet inner space, just see what's alive for you today. Maybe it's not so quiet. Maybe there's a lot going on, and see if you can just bring a gentleness as you notice what's here. There's no need for any judgments. If your thoughts are loud or noisy, just see if you can let them be. Welcome them in. Nothing to control. Nothing to avoid or shut down. Just letting your thoughts and any emotions or sensations in the body have space to be witnessed. And just gently here scanning your body from head to toe. And as you do, seeing if you can find any little pockets of tension or contraction. And anytime you find one, just seeing if you can breathe into that space. And with every exhale, just letting go. Giving yourself permission for just these few moments together to be fully here and to fully release anything that you might be holding on to. And if you find a place that feels a little stubborn or difficult or like it doesn't want to let go, just let that be okay too. Let everything just soften. No need to be critical or harsh towards ourselves here. The point is to just allow and soften and witness. Loosening the jaw, letting go of any tension in the tongue. Letting each breath just bring you a little bit heavier and heavier, as if you're giving over everything to the earth beneath you. Really feeling the sensation of dropping down into the earth. Almost as if you could feel that the earth has a magnetism to her that is pulling your body towards her surface. Any thoughts, emotions, anything that you might have been clinging to throughout your day, See if you can allow that magnetism to be like a vacuum that just sucks away any stories, any tension, anything that you've been clinging or holding on to. Just seeing if you can let go a little bit more. Nothing to do. Just simply allowing. Who are you when you stop clinging to your stories? Who do you become when you stop charging the emotions of your dramas? How much peace is available to you here? And the real question, how willing are you to experience peace? So often we say that we want peace, we act like we want that, and yet we have this insatiable desire to experience the highs and lows and dramas of life. And I think that that's a big part of being human. But it can also feel like a prison sentence sometimes. So just seeing if for this moment, notice in yourself, how honest can you be? How willing are you to truly let peace in? Notice if there's a stubbornness to that question, or a feeling of not being able to set down your challenges or your stories that are happening in your life right now, and just watch. No need to force them away. Just notice how willing or unwilling you are. Whether you feel completely willing to let peace in, or perhaps today you're feeling like it's a little hard, like you're holding on to the feeling, the high or the low, the intensity of emotion, of a story, of an experience. Whatever the case is for you today, see if you can just soften the space around that willingness or unwillingness. And if you don't know how to do that, just simply bring your awareness to your jaw, your tongue, and your pelvic floor. And soften these areas of the body. And just breathe here for a couple moments. Breathe and let yourself just willingly accept where you're at. No right or wrong. Just letting it be okay. Letting it be okay if you're feeling stubborn. Letting it be okay if there's something that you feel like you can't shake. Just softening into that and accepting exactly what it is in this moment. And that softness that you're feeling in the body, the softness of the tongue, jaw hanging loose, Softening of the pelvic floor. Seeing if you can spread that softness from those places in your body out through the rest of your body and into the space around you. Almost as if you could feel the edge between your body and the space around you dissolving. Feeling yourself as one giant, infinite spaciousness. Vibrating field of aliveness. And imagine here for a moment that you could rise up out of your body, out of your home, and just continue to rise up into the sky, looking down on your backyard, rising up, looking down at your neighborhood, your city, your state or country, rising all the way up to planetary level, looking down at the earth. And just feel this perspective for a moment, being here in the vastness of space, looking down on the earth, imagining from this perspective that you could see yourself as a tiny little ant, living your life with all of your habits and patterns and experiences, your emotions, your stories, your challenges, your inspirations. As you feel into this perspective, stay with the spaciousness of your being. Feel the interconnectedness of you and the entire universe around you. That you are beyond just that mind, that body, that life. Perhaps it is even helpful here to feel into the part of you that can sense that there is something more beyond just this life. That even after you pass on and you leave this mind and this body and all of the stories and dramas and highs and lows and friction and expansion of your human life, it's something. Even if you can't explain or know what it is, that something continues on. And see if you can feel into that presence, that essence within your being that is beyond the personal. Essence of your being that is unchanged from the moment that you were born all the way up until present day, and that will continue on all the way until you pass away. Just like the blank page in a book holds all of the words, and that the words could not exist without the page. This spaciousness, this essence of your being that has held all of your thoughts, your changing shapes and forms, your stories, your emotions, your thoughts, throughout your whole life, has never changed. Just feel into that infinite space within you. Notice how it expands beyond your skin, that it holds every sensation, every smell, every taste, every touch, every sound and smell, every intuition. Everything your mind has ever said. As you breathe into that space, allow yourself in this visualization to move closer to the earth, to begin to descend, coming close, noticing how from afar the earth looks like an object, like a round sphere, but that the closer you get, you don't hit the land, you don't hit the walls of the clouds or the water, but instead you come in contact with sensation, the atmosphere. That everything that you saw up above as an object, the closer and closer you get, no matter what objects and labels the mind provides, there is just vibration, sensation. You pass through the clouds and you feel the way sensation arises, and you say, "It's happening in my body." But is it? Or perhaps is your body the entire infinite space that holds all sensation? As you move closer, notice the weather in the sky that you come in contact with. You see the sun, the clouds. Perhaps you feel the rays of sunlight, and your mind says, "It's happening on my skin." But when you go to your direct experience, notice. Sensation is arising in the same one infinite space. The spaciousness that you are. And you move closer and closer. And again, down below you, you see the state or the country that you live in. And you see the lines that divide it from the others around it, as if they are separate, divided. But the closer that you get, you notice it's just an illusion. There is no wall, no division. Just one giant mass of land. That the edges and divisions were built upon labels and ideas and stories. And as you get down closer and closer, you begin to see yourself. You're looking down at yourself within your life, continuing to move through your patterns and habits, your interactions of your daily life. And as you watch, you notice yourself come to a place of challenge, some sort of obstacle that you are meeting in your current life. Perhaps this is something that you feel like you can't shake, something that's causing you to spiral or loop within your mind and emotions, or a place perhaps that you feel stuck or stagnant. And for this next moment or so, just simply watch and see what arises as you witness your life from a third-party perspective or a bird's eye view. Watch the loops that you get into. Witness how you get into this space. What are the thoughts that come up? And what are the emotions that those thoughts create? And when you are in those emotional states, what are the behaviors that you take? Simply take stock and just witness without judgment, just noticing the pattern that you are in currently. Now letting this visual just fade away, coming to rest again just in the body and the breath. I'd like to ask you here, what if that challenge or obstacle that you were facing was feeling so stuck and stagnant because it wasn't being used correctly as the fuel or the soil for the creation that was meant to come from it? See, when we go through a challenge in our life, there is always meant to be a level of creation that comes from it. And often the reason that we get stuck, or we feel like we're looping or spiraling in our mind, is because we take the emotion that we're experiencing from that challenge and we begin to think in a really victimizing or lacking way. And we start to get trapped overthinking, overanalyzing, and oftentimes this can lead us to behaviors of overconsumption, distraction, becoming overly identified with the material world. In extreme cases, it can lead to addiction, or even different forms of self-sabotage. But if we can look at our challenges, our obstacles from this third-party perspective, and we can remind ourselves that what we're being gifted within this challenge is meant to be fuel for the next version of ourselves. And if we learn how to navigate this equation correctly, we can find a lot of empowerment and expansion within it. And so perhaps in visualizing and seeing the pattern that you've been in, you see what has not worked. Maybe you see where you've been stuck. Thoughts that weren't working for you, that made you feel not worthy, that made you feel uninspired or small or defeated. And perhaps what you're desiring is to feel inspired and creative and passionate about your life. And so the way in which we can shift this is by allowing ourselves to align with the correct equation. Meaning, when we're going through something challenging, whether that is something big, like losing somebody in our lives, losing a parent, or going through a breakup, losing a job, or a friend, or whether that is something smaller, more mundane in our daily lives. A challenging conversation that we don't want to have, or a conflict with someone in our family or in our friend circle. Regardless of what the challenge is, there is something that is desiring in the deepest part of your soul and spirit that wants to extract the wisdom and use that as fertilizer, as soil for the next version of you. So I'd like you here to imagine that you're looking at this challenge again. And rather than seeing it as a logical, labeled narration of what is happening, I'd like you to feel into the energy of this challenge and see if you can not just feel it, but create a visual, whether that's colors or textures or symbols, something that speaks to the right hemisphere of the brain and to the body and to the subconscious mind. A depiction of your inner world and your experience of this challenge that speaks more to the sensual side of yourself. So I'll give you an example here. If you're going through grief and loss, and it's a really intense sadness within you, imagine if you could draw that feeling in colors and in textures, and that you're not limited by any kind of medium. It could be paint, it could be clay, it could be metal, but create and sculpt in front of you in your visual field something that depicts the raw materials of what this challenge feels like to you. The moments that you go through when nobody else is around. Perhaps you feel alone or isolated. Maybe moments where you feel the weight of the world and you don't know how you're going to get beyond this moment. Whatever it is that this challenge evokes in you emotionally, I'm going to give you just a couple moments to yourself to let this visual come into form in front of you. Now I'd like you to imagine here that the visual, the representation that you just created, the symbol of what it is that you're going through, is floating above a garden. And you can create this garden in whatever way that you would like. But notice how this garden is empty. And notice how it is craving new life. You can almost feel within it that there is a sense that it is ready to birth something new. And that all it needs is the right equation, the right nutrients and fertilizer, the right equation of sun and water. And with that perfect ratio, that it is so ready and teeming with creativity and possibility to birth something new. Something the world has never seen before. Perhaps a species of plant or flower that is undiscovered by humans so far. And as you see this visual, this symbol floating above the garden, I want you to watch as it descends down into the soil, scattering itself and dissolving into the depths beneath it. And it spreads itself deep within the entire garden. And as it does, you feel the energy shift. You feel the soil so grateful for the nourishment, for the life that you've just given to it, the wisdom for new life to grow. And as you watch, as if seeing a time-lapse video of this garden, you begin to notice that with the perfect amount of sun, perfect amount of water, that new plants, or flowers, or species begin to grow. And notice what they look like. Notice what your decomposition of the most challenging things in your life right now are turning into. Notice the colors and the textures, the uniqueness. And I'd like you to imagine here that this symbolizes a very similar experience in your own life. That the challenges and obstacles that you're facing, when you truly allow them to have the seeds of wisdom within them that get to turn into new life. And that new life is a symbol of a new you. A more wholesome, worthy, abundant, creative, and inspired version of yourself. And that this is the purpose of every moment of coming to meet our shadow. Every moment of alchemizing our shadow into more light, more expansion, more self. A version of you that is different and unique. A different species in a way from anybody else on this entire planet. So how do we relate this to our lives? When we go through a challenge, a shadow period, when we descend into the underworld of our being, the first step is allowing the decomposition. And oftentimes this is where we fight ourselves. We don't allow ourselves to fully feel and express everything that is needed. Many people get trapped here, sometimes for years, because they don't allow the full cycle to come to completion. An example of this is somebody who gets stuck in the grief process and can't get out of that cycle for years and years and years. And I don't mean to say that we don't have times of missing somebody who has been lost. Of course we do. But what I mean is that we hold ourselves back sometimes from fully allowing ourselves to decompose, because this is scary. It means letting the fullness of our emotion consume us momentarily, even in the face of fear, even in the face of thinking that it could destroy us or overtake us. But when we allow ourselves to fully feel whatever emotion is present, and we allow ourselves to express that emotion, whether it is through a song or a dance or a painting or movement, when we move that emotion through our body without resistance, we allow ourselves to fully get to the decomposition. And from that space of decomposing, we give the nutrients to the soil. This moment of surrender is what brings the nutrients all the way down and in. And from the core of the emotion that we allow ourselves to experience is where we find the seeds of wisdom, the seeds of creation for that next version of our life and of ourself. In a way, these are nature's forms of rites of passage for us. And they show up in small ways and big ways throughout our life. And in order to blossom into that next version, we have to plant the seeds that we gather from our challenges and our obstacles and our intense emotions of our lives, and allow them to become something new. We allow our shadow to move us into creation. And although that creation shows up in ways of art or teaching or sharing with our community, at the end of the day, each and every one of them is the fuel for the next version of ourselves. The creation of more of our potential in this body. And there are so many different ways in which this can be seen in the world. One example would be somebody losing a relationship, going through a breakup, and allowing themselves the space to grieve and to feel the fullness of that emotion. And this timing is different for everyone and takes a lot of honesty, because we don't want to move beyond the grief too early. And we also don't want to perpetuate it with our minds, where we get stuck in those loops and cycles of victimization, where we never take the wisdom and become something new, but become a victim to our reality. And that is a place that we can only really meet ourselves. A place of honesty where we say, okay, I realize I have fully felt everything that needed to be felt from this experience. And what happens is that in that space of surrender, there's usually some sort of creative insight, and how willing we are to listen to that, no matter how smart it sounds, no matter how logical it sounds or totally illogical. If we can move with that inspiration, that divine idea, that spark of wisdom for a new project, a teaching, a piece of art, a way of being, possibilities are endless, but there is a seed of creativity within the deepest destruction of the old self. And to allow this to be planted within our hearts and then watered with our decisions is what allows us to move into the expanded new state of being. And we are always in this cycle of death and rebirth. We can't escape it. It's a part of life. And so it's very helpful to look at our lives and notice where we are at in this cycle. And oftentimes we're in this cycle in many different ways all at once. Maybe in one cycle with a relationship, another cycle with your job. Sometimes our cycles overlap and you may be feeling multiple deaths and rebirths at the same time. But the more awareness you can bring to this process, the more allowance you can give yourself to be with the emotion, to extract the wisdom, and to plant the seed for the new creation, the less and less stagnancy that you will feel in your life, and the more empowered you will feel as a creator of your life. So I'll leave this meditation with this contemplation. After you've noticed the places that you might be blocking yourself, ask yourself, have I truly allowed myself to fully decompose, to fully feel and surrender into the emotion? Or have I held myself back? Some people may not have reached that full decomposition yet because they're unwilling to feel, and others may have reached it but have clung to that low space within themselves with thoughts of victimization or a refusal to use the nutrients to grow into something new. The key is here that no one else can save you. No one else is coming to pull you out. These are the moments that we define ourselves, that we choose who we want to be. And so once you've reached that point of fully decomposing, open yourself to the wisdom, the epiphany, the insight, no matter how small or big, and let it move you. Let it fuel you in a new direction. Maybe that's taking what you've learned and turning it into a teaching for somebody else. Or maybe it's taking an emotion and moving it into art. Maybe it's taking an insight from your journey and using it to become a better friend or mother or father. Whatever it is, the beautiful thing about this process is that we are constantly moving from the deepest isolation into a feeling of reconnecting to ourselves and our humanity. Because whatever it is that you are inspired to create in your life from that moment of deconstruction is what will lead you to connection with those around you. the feeling of the deepest separation, and allowing ourselves to go there, to fall apart, to be messy, to not have it figured out, to feel raw and confused, is what leads us to the other side of that spectrum, the feeling of wholeness, connection, intimacy within self and other. And when we move with creation, we teach our bodies that they are safe to be here. So I'll leave this here. I hope that this provided you with a sense of understanding of where you're at in this cycle in your life. And I hope that it leaves you with a sense of inspiration and empowerment to step into that next version of yourself.